In the intellectual circles of the 9th century Islamic world, there was a man known as al-Alama, the great scholar. His peers called him al-Mutabahir, the deep sea of knowledge, a title acknowledging the sheer volume of information he carried. His full name was Abu Uthman Amr bin Bahr bin Mabub al-Basri. History, however, remembers him by his nickname, Al-Jahiz. He was not born into the elite. According to his nephew, Yamut bin al-Muzara, Al-Jahiz's grandfather was a black Cameleer, a laborer who made his living driving caravans. He pursued knowledge with a singular obsession. He used his income to rent out the shops of booksellers, paying them so he could be locked inside overnight. By dawn, he claimed to have finished every book in the building. Those nights spent alone in locked stalls turned the grandson of a Cameleer into a man who held the intellectual contents of an entire city in his head. To build his mental library, he studied theology with al-Nizam and took knowledge from Abu Yusuf al-Qadi and Thumama bin Ashras. He then passed this inheritance to the next generation, training students like Abu al-Aina and his nephew, Yamut. Rather than keeping his learning to himself, he functioned as a bridge, connecting pioneering scholars of the past to leading intellectuals of the future. His reputation as a writer eventually led him to the seat of power. He stepped in to substitute for Ibrahim bin al-Abbas al-Suli in the Diwan of Messages, the state's central administrative hub for official correspondence. In the medieval Book of Animals, or Al-Hayawan, Al-Jahiz documented biological and philosophical observations, such as this depiction of a crocodile and a bird. Originally, the work focused on human nature, before he expanded it into a 7-volume encyclopedia of the animal kingdom. He followed this with monumental texts on a vast range of subjects, from a detailed work on crops and palm trees to his celebrated treatise on rhetoric and eloquence, Al-Bayan wa al-Tabyin. He was prolific, writing refutations and treatises on almost every segment of society. He wrote on the Mu'tazila, the Nasara, and the Turks. He catalogued the traits of different regions in Al-Buldana, and even described the contents of perfume shops in Hanut Attar. This intellectual output generated significant wealth. When he dedicated the Book of Animals to the Vizier Ibn al-Zayyat, he was rewarded with 5,000 gold dinars. Similar bounties followed for his other major dedications. He used this income to live comfortably, eating the finest foods and wearing soft silks. He famously claimed that his books were his estate, an asset that required no maintenance and provided constant value. Despite his fame, court life was dictated by more than just intellect. When the Caliph al-Mutawakkil summoned al-Jahiz to tutor his children, he dismissed the scholar almost immediately because he found his physical appearance unattractive. Al-Jahiz was sent away with a payment of 10,000 dirhams, but no position. Beyond his appearance, his theology made him a target for controversy. As a Mu'tazili rationalist, he was viewed with suspicion by traditionalist scholars like Thalib, who questioned his religious commitment. This friction is reflected in his record as a narrator. Of the thousands of hadiths circulating in his time, he officially passed down only one. He was a man of contrasts, an intellectual who amassed a fortune from his pen, yet remained an outsider to the inner circles of royal and religious authority. Throughout his works, Al-Jahiz reflected on the mechanics of human behavior. He observed that benefit brings love, and harm brings hatred, and that justice brings unity, while injustice brings separation. He warned that any virtue, when pushed to an extreme, becomes a vice. To Al-Jahiz, extreme humility was simply humiliation, and extreme generosity was nothing more than waste. This recurring focus on the middle path appears in his writings on statecraft and social ethics, suggesting that virtue exists only within the boundaries between two failing extremes. This ancient medical manuscript mapping the human body is a fitting backdrop for his final years, as his own biology began to fail. Living past the age of 90, Al-Jahiz suffered from partial paralysis and gout, to the point where even a fly landing on him caused intense pain. He described his decline with a characteristic irony. Opposites have reconciled in my body. If I eat cold, it takes my head. If I eat hot, it takes my legs. He died in the mid-9th century, either in 250 or 255 AH, leaving his massive library behind in Basra. He left behind hundreds of volumes, an exhaustive record of a century's worth of thought that remained a reference for scholars long after the body that produced them failed.